All right, good evening. We'll call the August 10th, 2020 meeting of the Lakeshore Hospital Authority Board of Trustees to order. I believe I've unmuted all of the trustees that are in or requested for you to unmute. You will remain unmuted throughout the meeting as well.
Motion to call the meeting to order.
There we go, Dr. Thompson. All right, so just as a reminder, if you're dialed in on the telephone, you can press *9 to raise your hand and *9 to put your hand down. Also, you would press *6 to unmute when you were called on and *6 to mute again. If you're on the app, you can use the raise hand function on the app as well, on the Zoom app. Is there any staff or trustee addition or deletions to the agenda?
I'll make the motion to accept the agenda.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Mr. Williams, before we vote on that, I'm trying to unmute you. Do we have an addition for the health department? Sorry about this. Give us just a second.
Mr. Chairman, I show Dale's audio is muted still.
Trying to get that worked out. Anyways, we'll go ahead and add the a memo that we received from the Florida Health Department, Columbia County Health Department, as a request for building space request, and we'll try to get Dell in here when that time comes. So if we could have another motion and a second with that added to tonight's agenda.
I'll make a motion and with the addition of the new information to approve the agenda.
I'll second it.
Got a motion by Mr. Swisher, a second by Dr. Thompson. All in favor, signal by saying aye.
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 Mr. Douglas, are you on there? Showing them. Mr. Coberline will we've got 4 trustees, so that would be the quorum. So we will, that motion passes.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
so long as the IT, we're not having any IT functions, so we have no way of knowing. So long as we do not believe that it's our IT function that kicks someone out, as long as our IT is functioning as it is intended, then Mr. Douglas would be absent.
And Lori is now unmuted. She just joined.
Sorry about that.
Are you good?
Yeah.
Mr. Coberline, would it be okay if I call that back up?
Yes, sir.
All right, Ms. Lori, we've got a motion and a second to approve the agenda with the addition of the building space request memo from the Columbia County Health Department. So I'll call that action item again. All in favor, signal by saying aye.
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 Motion carries. Public comments. Ms. Lindley, if you will unmute yourself and.
Do you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I have a couple questions. Has or is this board dash director plan to discuss as to why prior board years ago decided to lease the facility?
I don't believe that's on the agenda for tonight.
No, it's not, but it's in connection with discussions on what to do with the property. And the other, would just allow me to have a couple questions. Why is this board not asking the county commissioners to place on the ballot to determine if the taxpayers and voters wish to continue paying taxes to the Lakeshore Hospital Authority? Give the taxpayers the option to have some control. The taxpayers had no input as to who sits on the board, but yet they're being taxed for it. So I think the voters and taxpayers of the county need to have an option if they want to continue the authority. And the other one is directly related. 2 of the letters of interest were received late. What I would like to know is from Director Williams, did he poll the board to determine if they should be opened, or should the normal protocol have been followed and they've been returned because they were received past the time deadline?
From conversations I've had, we're still working on his Mr. Williams' audio, but from conversations that I've had, that'll be something that the trustees will be able to decide if they want to accept those or not. So whenever we get down to, I believe it's the third item under new business,
So
the
I can
discussion
discuss-
regarding the meeting
I can
dates.
discuss it again then.
Well, I think we're just going to set dates to discuss that when we're set dates to discuss it. So it's not going to be discussed tonight.
But they were received late, and it's normal protocol. They've been returned, but they were opened. Why were they not returned? Why have rules if they're not going to be followed?
Yes, ma'am.
So you can't answer, Director Williams can't answer the question why they were opened.
I'm sorry. Mr. Williams, would you like to comment on this, why they were open? I'm going to share my computer screen with Mr. Williams this evening.
My apologies, Mr. Chairman, to all for the technical problems. I'm not quite sure what the problem is. Ms. Limley, your question is why did we not follow our procedures? I believe we have followed our procedures. There was nothing in the RFP that stated that any proposal received late would be returned unopened. There was no communication outside of written communication with any trustee about what to do. There is a obvious formality question that has to be answered in the future as to whether they will accept those 2 proposals. It's quite common that if no one received a competitive advantage, that it be considered an informality and considered. That is my recommendation. And I did say that. Whether that is what the trustees' wishes are is yet to be determined.
Okay, my last question is, or a statement, why is this board not having anything on the website indicating there are 2 vacant trustee positions open for appointment? Why is that not on the website? If somebody looks like they may be interested, but they wouldn't know because there's no information on the website. Maybe that should be added.
Thank you, Ms. Limley. Anything else?
Yeah, what's the status of the OBGYN? I heard it was closing, but then it didn't close. What's the status of the OBGYN at Shands?
It's currently closed.
It's currently closed.
Yes.
Okay. And the last thing is the time framework will be discussed in option number, item number 3 as to what the plan is for the other properties, such as the Bedoya building, the hospital office building.
We're going to be discussing the proposals, Ms. Limley.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Are there any other public comments this evening? Again, if you are on your phone, if you'll hit *9 to raise your hand. Hearing none, we will close the public comments. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion by Dr. Thompson, a second by Mr. Swisher. All in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, that motion carries. Moving to new business, Mr. Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The first item of business is to request the trustees to acknowledge and approve the state of emergency declarations that were made by the chair on a weekly basis. Those would cover the period of July 16th, 2020 through August 12th of 2020. And that would be resolution in accordance with resolution number 2020-004.
Make a motion to approve resolution number 2020-004 as stated.
Second.
Got a motion by Dr. Thompson, a second by Mr. Swisher. All in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, that motion carries.
The next item, Mr. Chairman, is a request of the trustees to approve a new resolution, which is number 2020-007. This too declares a state of emergency due to COVID-19. The difference between this and the aforementioned resolution is that the gubernatorial executive order has now changed. The new state of emergency reflects the changes made accordingly.
Make a motion to approve resolution number 2020-007 as stated.
Second.
Got a motion by Dr. Thompson, a second by Ms. Chancey. All in favor, signal by saying aye.
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 All opposed, that motion carries.
And the next item, Mr. Chairman, I think it's important for all to understand. We have a 30-day window beginning August the 3rd in which we can discuss the proposals received regarding Lakeshore Hospital, the lines of service which may be provided, who the providers may be, and et cetera. And we can do so out of the sunshine, in the shade. And that's a provision that the law provides for us, and we need to take advantage of that as possible. It's a very short time frame, But I think the best way to coordinate this with the trustees is for the trustees to look at their calendars and to see what days they may not be available over the next month, and to let Sonia know where we can put together a calendar that we can share with those proposers, try to coordinate some schedules where we can get down to some serious discussions with these various people. Now, having said that, I think it's also important for everyone to understand that we've got to wedge into this a discussion about our fiscal year 2021 budget. Just because we're having to deal with the hospital doesn't mean the budget issue goes away. So we have that work, which is required of us by law to do also. And we have our first budget hearing, the first meeting in September, which will be approximately 1 month from today. So we have two extremely important tasks to work on, and we have a very short time frame in which to work on them. And I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have, but I think it's important that we first try to determine when and how we're able to meet. And so again, I strongly suggest, Mr. Chair, that all the trustees advise Sonia of what their calendars look like, what their availability will be, where we can devise a discussion as to what dates may work for everyone, where we can start business at hand.
So do you think this will be something that'll take multiple meetings?
I do. You know, there's a lot of work here. We have to fully understand what the proposal said. They're obviously going to hear input from the trustees. I'm certain they're going to need time in order to put numbers and financial information to some of this. We're going to need time to digest what they're specifically asking of us. And there's got to be a vetting back and forth. And so I do think it's going to take every day that we have and probably more.
Also, for information purposes, I know the answer to this, but you've been working also on numbers and a budget per se, with the possibility of the authority running certain services whenever CHS is done. So that'll be a discussion as well in those meetings.
It will. I'm going to have to ask Fred to give an opinion at some point whether that part of what we do is within the sunshine or not. But you are correct. What correlates with this will be a discussion amongst the trustees as to what interim measures they wish to take, if any, while we're vetting the proposals that have been received.
Mr. Chairman, this is Dr. Thompson. I just want Sonia to know that I have no conflicts within the next 60 days, just as long as the meetings would start at 5:15.
Good.
Are there any other questions or comments on this item, the trustees?
The only day I have unavailable is the 24th of August. As long as we have it at our regular time.
Good.
All right.
And
Mr.
we can
Chairman, do
certainly-
we have an idea of what percentage of the hospital is currently operating at this point? I know several have closed, several departments have closed.
Trustee Swisher, I've had differing reports. I will be more than glad to inquire and to try to get you a definitive answer. I would hate to answer without knowing for certain.
Anything else on this action, on this discussion item? All right, I was informed this afternoon there would be no hospital update. The staff report is included in your packet. I'm sorry. Mr. Williams, we added to the agenda the memo from the health department.
Okay, thank you again, Mr. Chairman. We have received a request from the Columbia County Health Department to utilize building space within the office building of the trustees of the authority. And the letter says that COVID-19 has presented the entire country, state, and county with changes as we adjust to safeguard our elderly and most vulnerable populations. Columbia County Health Department is responsible for working with COVID-19 positive patients for notification and the extensive task of contact tracing associated with the positive cases. We have recently increased our staff to support this highly critical task and need, and additional temporary space to house these individuals is needed. The Health Department is asking Lakeshore Hospital Authority consider assisting by allowing the in-kind use of one conference meeting area on the second floor of this building, the Lakeshore Hospital Authority building. The request is for a period that would be at least through December 2020. The health unit will be providing laptops, printers, internet connectivity, cell phones, and other work-related items needed by the staff. They only need space and electrical connections. They anticipate a minimum of 5 staff, which could increase to 10 depending on future COVID-19 needs. They said if this is possible, they will be glad to discuss access and hours of acceptable use. They currently have staff working 7 days a week with their hours fluctuating from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. So this is a request to provide an in-kind service to the Columbia County Public Health Unit. There would be no compensation offered for the use of this to the authority. They will be using this for their COVID-19 workforce, which they are expecting to expand due to the number of positive cases. And of course, Mr. Chairman, this does require trustee approval, and so we submit it for your consideration.
Do you see any issues with as far as having access and hours? I mean, can we close off our portion of the building to allow them access?
Yes, I do believe that we can maintain security while at the same time allowing them the use of this building, if that's the wishes of the trustee.
Mr. Director, Dr. Thompson, we have all the electrical connections and everything they're going to require.
Yes, Dr. Thompson, they are familiar with the building and they have used it for meetings and et cetera in the past. So they have a familiarity with it. There was nothing above and beyond what was stated that the authority would need to supply.
All right. Okay. And you'll need a motion to on this. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes, sir.
So I'd like to propose a motion that we allow, what was the entity called?
Columbia County Public Health Unit.
Columbia County Public Health Authority to occupy space on the second floor with all the requirements that they needed. I would say up until December 2020, and then we'd reevaluate it.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Got a motion by Dr. Thompson, a second by Mr. Swisher. Is there any further discussion? Yeah, Mr. Coberline.
I believe this item was added on. Is that accurate?
That's correct.
Correct.
Okay. Could we amend the motion to find that it's fits the need of an emergency?
Yes. I would amend the motion to include the word emergency by the Columbia County Health Department to occupy the space on the second floor for COVID-19 intervention.
Second.
Got an updated motion, a second. Is there any further discussion?
Mr. Chair, other than the what was listed by Executive Director Williams there as far as the electric stuff, is there any other burdens or unknown obligations for staff during the use of this room that we know of?
No, Mr. Swisher, the only thing I know that wasn't on the list that we'll have to do is to provide keys, maybe temporary security codes, things of that nature, but nothing else beyond just access issues.
There's no further discussion. We've got a motion and a second, motion by Dr. Thompson, a second by Mr. Swisher. All in favor, signal by saying aye.
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 All opposed, that motion carries. Staff report is included in your agenda for the month of August. There was 8 new patients, 20 renewals. There was 28 seen in the office, which brings our active members in the program to 148. 47 primary care visits in June 2020, 492 year-to-date through June. Pharmacy usage, 42 patients served and 104 prescriptions filled. Is there any questions on the staff report? Board member comments, Ms. Chansey.
I'm just looking forward to what we're going to be doing in the future. And I'm very interested in the meetings that are going to be set up. That's it.
Dr. Thompson?
Yes, I would just echo those comments that, now we need to get to work and see what the future looks like. So that's about all I have to say right now.
Mr. Swisher?
Yes, I'd just like to bring it to the board's attention that I've been contacted by the Chief Judge of the Circuit, Judge Mark Fiegel, in reference to possibly being appointed to serve in his interim role for the upcoming vacancy of the Clerk of Courts and Comptroller with Mr. Kaysen retiring. If that occurs, it would be this Friday, and that would obviously cause a conflict with me serving on this board. And I will immediately make notification of this board if that does arise.
Well, we wish you the best of luck in everything. We certainly enjoyed you serving on the board, but very proud of you and excited for you in your future endeavors.
Absolutely. It's been an honor to serve on this board.
Yes, congratulations, Jay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Wish you
And
luck.
I would just like to kind of add to Ms. Lori and Dr. Thompson's comments. I look forward to the meetings that we're going to have to see what the possibilities are, what the proposals are. I know we have a big responsibility ahead of us to get this right and to continue providing healthcare in the interim until we get that figured out.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
may I make one more comment?
Yes, ma'am.
Jay, it's been a privilege to serve with you, but we wish you the best. I didn't want to say anything until you did. Okay?
Thank you very much.
Always the
Yes, ma'am.
sharpest dressed.
This may be our last meeting together, but it's been fun.
I'll
Thank
still be an active participant in the meetings. Absolutely.
you. Okay.
And with that, I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Second.
I want to make note that I believe this was the quickest meeting in probably a year.
Take care, guys.
Thank you all.
Good night.
Okay, we'll look forward to hearing about the other meeting.